Welcome, everyone, to this episode of All the Good Titles Were Taken. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem like a rumble is a rumbling, which, let's see if we can get that corrected. But welcome, everyone, to the show. It's not a good way to start out, this is for sure. Let's check it out. Let me see. Yeah, there we go. I'm now seeing myself. Okay, we're good. We're up and running. All right. Well, anyway, welcome to this episode of All the Good Titles Were Taken. We're going to go into some food history like Taco Bell and some snack foods and stuff like that. And yeah, it's a food episode. That's what we're going to do. We're going to do food episode. So before we get started, make sure you hit that like, subscribe, and follow button, depending on where you're watching from. Most appreciated those that do that to continue this steady little growth that I am doing on this channel. I'm a modest little creator that this is my hobby. This is what I do for fun. This is what I do to relax. Joining us in the chat already is Mr. Beak. Welcome, Mr. Beak. How are you doing this evening? All right. So these are all coming from World Weird Food History channel. All the links, the videos are in the description for the show. So you can go and watch them for yourself or check out their YouTube channel. And then we will, let's just get into it and let's start it off.
Twinkies, Little Debbie, Pop Rocks, Cheetos, Lunchables. No, this isn't an updated rendition of my favorite things from The Sound of Music.
Yeah, I was gonna say junk food. Definitely. This is gonna be a hard one because I'm finding that I am the heaviest I have ever been. I am not happy about it. So I've already cut out using creamer in my coffee, which now that I look at it, the only thing I drink is coffee, water, a little bit of tea. I don't drink pop or soda, depending on where in the country you're watching from. And so I'm realizing it's like, okay, the amount of like sugar and everything else that's in creamer, I'm like, okay, I'm just going back to regular black coffee as a way to realign my diet. On top of adding and looking at highly processed foods and starting to cut those out.
A history of our nation's favorite junk food. For the best way to understand America is not by looking into the hearts and minds of its citizens, but by the content of their snack box. Today on Weird History Food, we're talking America's favorite junk food through the decades. But before we get started, be sure to subscribe to the Weird History Food channel and let us know in the comments below what other snack food topics you would like to hear about. Okay, don't tell a dentist about this video. 4 out of 5 of them won't recommend it. Junk food as we know it today really began at the turn of the century. The dawn of the Industrial Revolution really gave mass-produced snacks their legs. So what was our nation's very first confection? Something to go along with America's favorite sport, Cracker Jack, as featured in America's enduring banger, Take Me Out to the Ball Game. You'd think that in 120 years, there would have been some experimentation with the recipe, but
I remember growing up and having Cracker Jack. I'm not a big fan of it. I mean, it's caramelized, essentially popcorn with peanuts. I mean, even today, I don't have any interest in it. Definitely a snack of growing up, but that didn't even really get in. It was when I was even younger. It wasn't even before my teenage years. I don't remember even having any Cracker Jacks.
If combining popcorn, molasses, and peanuts together into a hardened sludge that will crack your teeth ain't broke, don't fix it. Well, except your teeth. That'll need a new crown. Cracker Jack was sold at the Chicago World's Fair in the late 19th century and got such rave reviews that it was repackaged.
I mean, if I'm going to have caramel corn or something like that, I'm going to get regular popcorn that is caramel. I'm not getting Cracker Jack. I'm pretty sure the downside nowadays to Cracker Jack is due to the peanuts because everyone seems to be allergic to peanuts now.
For mass distribution across the land. Fast forward to 1900, when public speaker Francis Woodward procured the formula for flavored gelatin. He marketed it as Jell-O, and boy, did the country go nuts for it. A 1902 advertisement in Ladies' Home Journal referred to it as America's most famous dessert.
Jell-O. I can't remember the last time I actually had Jell-O. Never was a big fan of it. Now, if you're talking about like pudding, I'll eat pudding all day long. But Jell-O for me, I don't know if it's the consistency. I don't know what it is about it. Never been a big fan of Jell-O.
Not for nothing, but these types of women's magazines weren't exactly impartial judges. Have you seen how many ways they found to slide Jell-O into otherwise normal recipes back then? Mini hot dogs in Jell-O? Oof. Not long after Jell-O came the Tootsie Roll in 1905. A tiny
Tootsie Rolls were always my favorite to get during Halloween, especially when they started coming out with the different flavored ones. Yeah, they claim it's natural flavoring. It's all artificial. Again, I'm one that if I look through my cabinets right even right now, I don't have, the only thing I have junk food right now is some kettle potato chips. And they're Hawaiian style, so they are sweet and spicy. And if I get other chips, they're salt and vinegar. I'm not a fan of like Doritos or Cheetos or any of those others. I mean, I'll eat them if that's my choice that I have to pick between. But I don't know, a very good salt and vinegar chip. Oh, perfect.
tube of chocolate taffy that only cost 1 cent. Tootsie Roll also had a hygienic novelty. It was the first individually wrapped candy. Wrapping up the aughts, Hershey's chocolate began as a harebrained enterprise by none other than popular carameler Milton B. Hershey. After inventing and patenting his own proprietary milk process to develop chocolate, Hershey founded a chocolate plant in Pennsylvania. In 1905, the first product of the plant began rolling off the assembly line, the Hershey's Chocolate Bar. Back at a simpler time before all the world wars, things were easier, especially copyright infringement. Take Oreo, one of the most...
Oreos. Now, see, this is the other thing about junk food, for me anyway. Because I don't do it very often, if I get it, I end up eating through it. I don't know if it's a self-control thing or just because I don't do it often. Oreo is one of them. I buy Oreos, they're double stuffed automatically, and I'm having it with whole milk. Just the way I enjoy it. I mean, it's the best way to enjoy an Oreo. But again, that's for me. Out of all of the different types of junk food cookies, Oreo is a go-to for me.
Popular cookies in America. The cream cookie sandwich is actually a direct copy of a pre-existing cookie, the Hydrox. In fact, Oreo just had one major difference from its Hydrox: lard. That's right, Oreos had lard in them. Lard is what makes anything delicious. Depending on what part of the country you live in, you might swear allegiance to Hostess or Tasty Cakes. And before you say, "But I don't eat sweets," just answer, there is no third option. Tasty Cakes entered the market in 1914, aiming for the chocolate cupcake crowd. Hostess followed a few years later in 1990.
I've, to my knowledge, never had Tasty Cake. Anything branded. In the case of this video, it's Hostess. There are a few Hostess items that growing up, I loved.
19, launching the beginnings of a nascent sponge cake empire, which would grow to include ding-dongs, snowballs, and of course, the mighty Twinkie. Unlike the Hostess cupcakes of today, the earliest ones were just plain cupcakes. They wouldn't get their signature squiggly lines of vanilla frosting for another 40 years. Various marshmallow pastes can be found in late 19th century regional...
Recently had them. I haven't had those little cakes before in quite some time, but I had them. The last time I had them, it's like, I don't know if it's taste buds have changed or the fact that I don't have a lot of processed sugary items. It's just, they don't taste right. It's same with the Twinkie. Even the Twinkie tastes off. I'm wondering if it really is a lot more having to do with consistency of it, maybe what they've started putting into it in modern iterations of it, but it just does not taste the same. I realized also that I do think it's tastes have changed, because I had memories growing up. Every Friday night was pizza night, and we always got Pizza Hut. A lot of fun memories with Pizza Hut pizza. So I was like, you know what? One night I went, yeah, no, I'm gonna do it. No Domino's, none of the other pizza places in my area and stuff like that, and some of the local ones that are really good. And I'm going for nostalgia. I'm gonna get Pizza Hut, and that was the biggest mistake. It is trash now. I cannot stand Pizza Hut. It's like that just destroyed my memory. I mean, the sauce I think is terrible. It took forever to get it, and I was doing pickup, and in addition to that, the prices for Pizza Hut is just, I mean, it was a $40 mistake, and that was one medium meat lover pan and one large pepperoni only stuffed crust. $40.
Cookbooks, showing that even before mass production was a thing, people found a way to consume empty calories. But it wasn't until 1917 that Massachusetts native Archibald Query patented a marshmallow fluff spread, followed 1 year later by his revolutionary Fluffernutter. On the other end of the caloric spectrum, peppermint lifesavers hit the shelves in 1912. Following up on the previous decade's invention of individually wrapped penny candies, lifesavers were ensconced in shiny foil wrappers. Originally, they were shaped like solid white discs. The holes wouldn't enter the picture until 1925. Extra, extra, read all about it. It's 1920, and the decade's first hit is the indescribably delicious Mounds Bar.
Mounds and Almond Joys. I don't like the almond. Mounds, not bad, but not for everyone, because there's a lot of people that don't like the taste of coconut. I think it was coming from the character in Zombieland. He's like, look, it's the consistency, not the taste, the consistency. And that seems to be true for a lot of people. They don't like the consistency of the taste. I mean, the consistency, excuse me, and the flavor, the consistency of feel of coconut. So it's not for everyone. I get it.
Composed of dark chocolate and coconut, Mounds was invented by Vincent Nitito and sold to the Peter Paul Candy Company in 1929, who also produced Almond Joys, which, as we all know, are just Mounds bars with a big almond in the middle. It's called knowing your audience. 11-year-old Frank W. Epperson accidentally invented a cold, tasty treat when he left powdered soda on his frozen front porch overnight, with the mixing stick still stuck in the packet. In 1923, Epperson patented his creation, the Epsicle, which is...
That's kind of interesting that the popsicle was made by accident, but that seems to be true for a lot of popular food items I've seen before or heard about, and I've never seen it confirmed. It was always just kind of word of mouth type thing. So by accident, they end up creating something else. It's the same with a lot of things. They go in the sense of like scientists were going in and they're trying to figure out one thing, but then discover another one. The example is the microwave oven. It was an experiment with radar, and it ended up being turned into the microwave, realizing what it was doing. And I remember the story correctly, is that the scientist had a Hershey bar in his pocket, and when him working with microwaves for a radar system, it melted his chocolate bar. And that's when he started kind of putting two and two together, and then one thing leads to another, and the invention of the microwave came out.
Children helpfully redubbed the Popsicle. Harry Burnett Reese was a Hershey dairy farmer and foreman who had his own idea for a delicious bowl-shaped candy in 1928.
Okay, so that one, oh man, the Reese's Peanut Butter Cup is trash today. But growing up, oh man, I loved the Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. I mean, during Halloween, getting those, even the smaller ones, oh, that's one I would want even before the Tootsie Rolls. Tootsie Rolls are one thing, but getting a Reese's Peanut Butter Cup during Halloween, oh, I was all over those.
Left to make his dream a reality. His peanut butter cups were an immediate smash hit, and after he died, his 6 sons sold their dad's product to Hershey's for shares worth $3.6 billion. But Reese wasn't the only guy out there with...
And it's the Hershey company that's destroyed the peanut butter cup.
Big ideas for peanuts. In 1920, Otto Y. Schnaring dropped batches of his candy creation out of a chartered plane, showering 40 states with candy bars made of peanut, caramel, and nougat. That was the day it rained Baby Ruths, which...
I have never been a fan of Baby Ruth. Of course, I mean, if you like eating peanuts and stuff like that, then I can see that being a good candy bar. But by and large, the only peanuts really I eat is when they're in crushed up form in the sense of peanut butter. I like peanut butter, but just eating nuts in general, not a big fan.
Schnaring named after his favorite baseball player. But the truly miraculous part of his story was that his stunt didn't manage to maim anyone. Imagine being taken out by an airborne candy bar in the 1920s. First the stock market, now this. In the 1930s, World War II was underway, and people had to get creative with their cooking habits. James A. Dewar had noticed how underused shortcake pans were outside of strawberry season, and began filling those neglected pans with banana filling. When WW2 led to a rationing of bananas, the filling was subbed in with vanilla. Voila! Twinkies. Anyone who lives in the Delmarva region knows the tale of Herman J. Lay, the Willy Wonka of savory delicacies, who introduced America to the potato chip bearing his name in 19...
Lay's chips are good. I don't mind them. Like I said, I'm going to go with salt and vinegar, but I prefer the kettle chips. I like the thicker potato chip compared to the thinner that you get with like Lay's, the Doritos and all the other ones. And if I'm eating a chip, and if I'm gonna do a tortilla chip, it's because I'm eating it with salsa. I'm just not a big fan of Doritos.
1938. 20 years later, Lay would team up with Charles Elmer Doolin of the Frito Company to merge into the Frito-Lay conglomerate, cornering the market on salty...
The Frito-Lays, the Fritos chips. Those corn chips are good if you're doing like Frito pie. Frito pie is great, fast, easy, because essentially, growing up, we would have fundraisers, something like that, or if there was an event going on, our concession stands always had Frito pies. Very simple, crush up, take a bag of Fritos, crush them up a little bit, throw in essentially like your taco mix, so seasoned beef, sour cream, cheese and stuff, and Frito pie, there you go. High school football games and stuff like that sold in the concession events at the school. So I really kind of want to do a Frito pie and see if I remember if my nostalgia is going to actually outweigh the taste of it, in the sense of actually it's like, you want to know what, this actually did bring back memories, or it's going to be like, oh, this was not as good as I remember it.
These snacks. The 30s were also a bopping time for Frank Mars, founder of Mars Inc. And you thought they were named after the planet. It's easy to get confused. After all, it was Frank Mars who introduced the world to his son's chocolate concept, the Milky Way. His son was Forrest, by the way, not Bruno. The Milky Way opened the soft nougat floodgates, and Mars perfected the practice with his 1930 Snickers bar, followed 2 years later by Three Musketeers.
If I've got to choose between Three Musketeers, a Snickers, or a Milky Way, I'm going Milky Way. Then after the Milky Way, then I'm going to go Snickers. And I had said about the peanuts. Yeah, there are peanuts in a Snickers bar, but I still prefer the Milky Way.
Both featured a nougat filling, though Snickers had an additional caramel and peanut center. Melts in your mouth, not in your hand. wasn't just someone trying to be cute in M&M's slogan department. The 1941 confection resulted from a wartime necessity, as Mars began producing hard-coated candies that could withstand overseas travel and store for the troops. Russian immigrant Samuel Bourne was already a well-known name in America's candy biz, thanks to his Bourne sucker machine that inserted sticks into lollipops. But he really broke out with his elongated jelly beans, Mike and Ike's, which came in fruit and cinnamon spice flavors. Although we all can agree cinnamon spice is the worst flavor. Is that one Mike or Ike? By the end of World War II, Dairy Queen was open for business, serving sweet and savory delights. Frito, minus the Lay's, that deal was still in the future, delved into new types of corn snacks through the 1940s, most notably Cheetos. Developed in 1948, Cheetos were made with extruded corn.
Has anyone seen the new, what they're calling naked Cheetos, Doritos, and stuff like that? And with the push of the Maha movement and RFK Jr. and taking food additives out that don't necessarily need to be there. So Doritos getting ahead of it. So they started bringing out Doritos and Cheetos without it. And wow, they don't look the same without that artificial coloring on it. But I guess they still taste fairly close to being the same. But it's like, yeah, this just shows you. If you get candy from, let's say, the UK or I don't know about Canada, but if you get candy from the UK, gummy bears specifically, I've seen it. Gummy bears are more muted in color in the UK compared to ours in the US that are much more brilliant in color. It's because of food coloring and stuff we put into the the gummy bears and gummies and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, you wonder why Americans are having such an obesity problem. And I still think it's all the chemicals we're putting into our bodies. It's not necessarily junk food specifically and candy and stuff like that. It's just the ultra processed. It's the sugars. It's all the chemicals and stuff. It's like our bodies weren't designed for this. And yet we keep ingesting more and more. And I think that's what's actually causing it. So many empty calories and so many different things that are just not good for the human body. That's why everyone's eating so much more of these things, is because they're empty calories. Your body's never really feeling full because it's missing its actual nutrients, the stuff it needs. Hence the reason why, like I said, I'm the heaviest I've ever been. I'm not happy about it. So I'm starting to make changes, getting rid of the ultra processed foods, cutting back your fast foods, taking creamer and cutting that out of my coffee drinking. Even right now in my coffee cup is just regular black coffee. I mean, this is ways and things I can do to improve my health is a positive, I think. And you kind of wish more people would kind of consider that and think about it. But too many people are just not willing to make that sacrifice of taste, if you will, or just little luxuries of sweet items. But I think the difference is that I've never been big on sweet snacks. I never really keep them in my home. So
Blasted with cheese powder, leading to a rise in cheese puff copycats soon after, forever dooming the keyboards of future generations. The end of World War II meant a boom season for America's new favorite pastime, gulping down as much fast food as possible. McDonald's, Jack in the Box, Taco Bell, and Kentucky Fried Chicken all became household names, a testament to the ever-expanding, or shrinking, palate of the average American. And the first national donut chain appeared in 1955, when Bill Rosenberg franchised his Dunkin' Donuts shop. The rise of pizza chains followed a similar trajectory. The Italian dish was considered an exotic novelty until brothers Dan and Frank Carney began franchising their dine-in pizza parlor in 1959. Pizza Hut, the very first mainstream American pizza, began in a Kansas restaurant. Back in those days, the pizza came in two sizes, 95 cents for a small and $1 for a large.
Inflation is just killing us. It is interesting to take, like, a dollar amount. So you're watching Mad Men, and then they talk about how much they make per hour or take home in a week. You take that, realize they're at 1960, calculate that out, and just see how much inflation we have had since the 60s. And going back and looking at it jokingly a little bit and going, yeah, you could buy a nice house on a nice little plot of land and spend only 20 grand. Not anymore. And again, this is 50s after the war. I mean, then you had the entire boom that happened, leaving the cities and these big, the move out to the suburbs that was occurring, and these developments and stuff like that. And these houses that, by our standards, if we just look at the dollar amount, look so inexpensive. But not really. It's just because our dollar has so less power behind it, buying power, compared to back in the 50s, back in the 60s, even in the 70s.
Since there was no delivery, you had to walk in the snow, uphill both ways to get it. Kraft food scientist Edwin Treisman was a huge influence in fast food innovation. For example, we have him to thank for the freeze-dried method that keeps McDonald's fries crispy. But his greatest invention was taking cheese in emulsifiers and loading them into an aerosol can. That chemical sorcery led to one of the most American foods of all time, Cheese Whiz. McKee Foods entered the ring in 1960 with their individually wrapped Little Debbie snack cakes, which to this day has kept...
Oh, okay. So those are my nemesis, to be perfectly honest. Swiss cake rolls. Swiss cake rolls. Oh, man. Those I have to restrain myself from buying. Just because, you ought to know what, those, I buy a pack of them. Yeah, they're gone in a couple days. Again, this is part of the reason why I don't also keep, besides not having a huge sweet tooth, so I can go without buying them. I feel no drive, no actual need. If I randomly get one, though, they don't last. I can sit there and go, okay, well, there's 6 dual packages, so I can get a week out of them. Yeah, they're gone in a couple days.
Its nostalgic packaging. Meanwhile, Hunt's snack packs, which became lunchroom staples in 1968 when they began selling in individual containers, were originally stored in pull-tab aluminum cans until 1984.
Open it carefully now.
In 1963, Nabisco introduced the world to Chips Ahoy, which would become the most popular brand of chocolate chip cookies of all time, and the third most popular American cookie ever. Number 1 being Nabisco's own Oreo.
Yeah, if I'm going Chips Ahoy, or if I have a choice between Chips Ahoy or going with an Oreo, I'm definitely going with the Oreo. It's just the way about it. That, and it was, they weighed, now, granted, Chips Ahoy finally came out with a chewy one, but I always found Chips Ahoy, I don't like hard cookies. I like softer cookies. That's why if I'm going to have cookies, I'll make my own. That way I can control it a little bit more.
Chips Ahoy marketing included their Superman-ish mascot, Cookie Man, who valiantly fought villains like Fruit Fly and Bigwig, and had a chocolate chip counting alter ego, Mort Meek. Can't wait to see Zack Snyder adapt that story. One of the biggest innovations in baked goods during the 60s was Kellogg Pop-Tart, which introduced America to a pastry crust with a sweet filling that could be popped into a toaster. Meanwhile, on the salty end of things, Frito-Lay's merger had led to one of their most popular products yet, Doritos. Released in 1966, by the end of the year, the stale corn chip covered in cheese dust was the second most popular snack in the country. The 1970s was a banner decade for snack foods. Pringles wowed the potato chip world by introducing dehydrated and reconstituted potato slices that could be stacked and sold in tubes. Ring Pops became a...
Knowing how Pringles are made, essentially it's just fried, mashed potatoes. That's why I don't like them, because, again, talking earlier about the consistency of coconut, people don't like it. I cannot stand the consistency of those chips. It's like you chew into them and they're not the same consistency as eating a regular potato chip. When they start chewing it down, it almost feels like it's going back to what it was formed with to get the shape and everything else, which essentially was like a mashed potato. You're not my not a thing for me. I don't like Pringles.
Fashionable treat in 1975.
Okay, Ring Pops. Anyone that's caught the snack food of the 90s and treats we grew up with in the 90s, if you watch that episode of Insert Title here, that was Ring Pops was one that we got into a discussion with trying to rank it. Granted, all the guys were kind of like, it's not, no, not for us and stuff like that. But Tiny was just all over it. And so, yeah, you want to know what? It probably was more favored by girls than boys. But I don't know when it first came out what it was like, but I just know in the 90s, it was more popular with girls than it was with boys.
Tops engineer Frank Richards needed an ingenious way for his daughter to stop sucking her thumb. Pop Rocks were another curiously crackly carbonated creation only the 70s could have produced. Developed by General Foods chemists in 1956, it took 2 decades until it finally hit shelves. After debuting in 1975, Pop Rocks enjoyed a 7-year run before rumors of a fatal reaction with soda saw the candy pulled for a decade in the 80s.
Oh, yes. The good old wives' tale that the Mikey Likes It kid from the Life cereal commercials died from the combination of Pop Rocks and Coke. And I can't believe people bought it. It's like, well, all Pop Rocks really are is just carbonate. It's what developed it was essentially freeze-dried soda. It's like freeze-drying Coke. The carbonation's still in there, and that's what causes the Pop Rocks to pop. Essentially, that's all it is. So it would be odd for the combination of it. Now what will kill you is eating a Mentos and swallowing a Mentos and then drinking Coke.
Ice cream would never be the same after Vermont natives Ben Cohen and Jerry Greenfield
Fucking communists.
opened their flagship ice cream parlor in South Burlington in 1978. Cohen suffered from anosmia, a complete lack of smell and therefore taste. He relied solely on what kids today called mouthfeels to determine the quality of his cream. That led to the pair experimenting with different textured treats and snacks incorporated into their product.
I don't like Ben & Jerry's. I've never liked Ben & Jerry's. They are too expensive. They think they're better than they actually are. I don't know why people buy their stuff. Again, like I said, they're communists. Their company came out and did a land acknowledgement saying that about stolen land. And yet no one really came after them. Some came after them, but nothing like Billie Eilish.
Leading to the most honey concoctions in dessert history.
Did you catch any of those? I mean, yeah, Cherry Garcia.
They're experimenting
sure.
with different textured.
But I think it's gonna go. Yeah, it's gonna go too fast past. Try to stop
treats
it on
and
them.
snacks incorporated into their product, leading to the most honey concoctions
Yeah, the Fallon one, fine.
in dessert history.
This is what I'm talking about being a communist. The just a flat out support of Bernie, supporting fucking Colbert, and then calling it the American dream. Fucking yes.
When Reese's Pieces came onto the scene in 1980, it was viewed as the red-headed stepchild in the Reese's dynasty, a relatively obscured offering outshadowed by the peanut butter cup. That all changed in 1982 when the snacks were featured in E.T., the Extraterrestrial. Originally, Spielberg had tried to get M&Ms, but Mars turned him down. Probably should have phoned home about that one. Fruit candies also had a renaissance. Sour Patch Kids, developed in Canada in the 1970s, were originally shaped like aliens. They changed shape when they hit American shelves in 1985 as a
Oh, man, they should go back to the original design. They should make them little aliens again. Get rid of the Sour Patch Kids and go with Sour Patch Aliens. I mean, with everyone's obsession right now if aliens are real or not, and government saying, oh, no, they're not. But yeah, maybe they are, and supposed sightings and stuff like that. Oh. Bring back, yeah, do you want to know what? Bring back the original shape. I'm wondering if, I am curious if they've ever done it as a special. I think I'm just too out of tune when it comes to like candy and stuff like that, and I'm not like a fan of anything specific. I'm sure anyone that's had Sour Patch Kids probably would know if they ever did do a special where they did go back to the original design for a short period of time.
direct result with the cultural obsession with Cabbage Patch Kids. Skittles were another international invention, created by the Brits in 1974. It wasn't until the Wrigley Company purchased the brand in 1982 that Americans could taste the rainbow. Nabisco's Teddy Grahams, debuting in 1988, were marketed as the healthy cookie option for children. Not sure why. Maybe because they're so small. We can also thank the 80s for the rise in microwavable frozen snack options. Pizza rolls, invented in 1951 by Gene Palucci, didn't become a household staple until 1985, when
Liked them growing up, can't stand them now. Again, I don't know if it's because they've changed the recipe. I don't know if it's just because I'm older, or if what about them? It's just, I cannot, I've tried eating them, and it's like, you just can't make them properly. They're either way too hot, and then you got to let them cool down, and then they're no good, and then they don't taste right, or you undercook them, then the centers are still frozen. It's the same with Hot Pockets. Used to enjoy Hot Pockets and stuff like that. Great, easy, microwavable item, but then again, you never can get them cooked consistently, even though they created the little microwavable shell and stuff like that, or even throwing in the oven. It's like, yeah, I'd rather go to a regular restaurant and get a calzone, which is fresher items. Have a calzone, because essentially that's just what a Hot Pocket is. It's a calzone.
Pillsbury acquired the brand. What better treat for the end of the snack century than Dunkaroos, Betty Crocker's mad experiment that flew in the face of conventional cookie frosting logic. Unlike most of the other entries on this list, Dunkaroos are no longer around, having been discontinued in 2012. Wah, wah. Probably because each package came with cookies and a separate, sealed dipping cup of pure frosting. Naturally, kids caught on pretty quickly that this design allowed for a cookie-optional dining experience, and mainlined straight sugar into their veins, which is probably why it's no longer available to purchase. Two fruity fan favorites during the 90s were also Betty Crocker Originals, Fruit by the Foot and Gushers. Both showed up in
I think both are still around. The one thing that I will say is I know what they were trying to do with the Gushers, but they never, I don't think they ever formed correctly. Or I've just really got bad luck when it came to the Gushers that I had gotten when I was younger.
1991, though the idea of dehydrating fruit into leathery strips has been around since before the invention of language. Even so, Fruit by the Foot was clearly modeled around fruit roll-ups, which had been patented a decade prior. Gushers were individual packets of fruit gummies filled with a sweet, oozy syrup. If your parents were trying to keep up the appearance of giving you a well-rounded lunchbox, you might be familiar with Go-Gurt. Originally billed as Canadian Yoplait Tubes, that's an unfortunate name, they first hit American shelves in 1998, appealing to busy kids on the go who didn't have time for spoons. And finally, Lunchables. The TV dinners of the afternoon were created after lunch meat lobbyists from Oscar Mayer petitioned Kraft to find a way to boost sales for Big Bologna. This ham-fisted agenda owed a debt to the rise of working moms, who suddenly had less time to prepare lunches for kids, who frankly would rather be dipping their snouts in pure frosting. It all created the perfect storm for the pre-packaged lunch revolution, which eventually expanded to 30 variations, including...
Never had Lunchables growing up. I think by time they actually started making the scene, I always had hot lunch. I didn't bring in lunch. I grew up in, I would say, lower middle class. And so I had hot lunch, and so never really brought lunch from home. So I think that's part of the reason also that I never had Lunchables. And on top of that, I think when they came out, I was already into high school. So completely missed out on the whole Lunchables thing.
Nuggets, pizzas, tiny burgers, and nachos. You know, the 4 basic food groups. So what do you think? What was...
So that is the junk foods of the 20th century. The next one we're gonna go to. Let's do some KFC. So this one's also from the same channel, and I think this will end up being the last video. How you doing, Devastator? Devastator in the chat. You missed the 20th century junk foods. Next up, we're gonna do the history of Colonel Sanders.
Every person watching this video has at least driven past a Kentucky Fried Chicken, if not been lured inside by the scent of its trademark 11 herbs and spices, and the inviting face of its founder and mascot, Colonel Sanders. But did you know that Colonel Sanders not only existed, but that his life story was a carnival ride of odd jobs, gunfights, and cantankerous southern living, far removed from his kindly image as the face of KFC? Today on Weird History.
Repeating the things that Colonel Sanders said, it was what got the founder of Papa John fired from Papa John's. That is still a hilarious story. He got fired for saying, hey, this guy said all of these things, and he got himself fired. It's the same story. I mean, Tim Pool has brought up before about, I think it was on Netflix, the guy that got fired. He was just simply saying, hey, these are the things that we do not want programming wise, and we don't want to hear in the office. And he just read off the list from a memo. People got offended. So he got called into HR. Were you hosting this? And he's like, yeah, I was doing this and all this stuff. Well, what were you saying? Went through the list again. I think that's just hilarious.
Mystery food. We are going to talk about the crazy true story of Colonel Sanders. But before we get started, be sure to subscribe to the Weird History Food channel and let us know in the comments below what other fast food founders you would like to hear about.
So everyone knows KFC. Everyone knows Colonel Sanders because, again, he wasn't just the mascot. It was actually Colonel Sanders that actually made it. It's like Dave Thomas from Wendy's. He was in the commercials, but that he was the founder of Wendy's. And in fact, Wendy's was named after his daughter. I don't know if they're going to get into it, but I think Colonel Sanders and Dave Thomas knew each other.
Okay, grab an 8-piece original and let's bite into some greasy chicken history. Colonel Sanders is known the world over as the smiling, genial avatar of fried chicken. In his 1974 autobiography, Finger Lickin' Good, he wrote, "They think I look so much like Santa Claus in Shelbyville, Kentucky, where my home is, that I put on a red suit and give out buckets of fried chicken at Christmas." But despite his friendly, folksy image, he was an elderly Southern man who lived through the Great Depression, standing in sharp contrast to his obsessive cleanliness, a personality quirk that led to his trademark white suit.
You likely wouldn't wear a white suit in a busy kitchen, but never worry about that in the Kentucky Fried Chicken kitchen. Keeping everything clean and neat is part of our recipe for real goodness.
Sanders.
See, that's the one thing is a lot of these, I mean, Colonel Sanders being one of them, I mean, was really pioneering the aspect of clean fast food kitchens. Ray Kroc from McDonald's really pushed that as well. And that was from the McDonald's brothers themselves of keeping a clean place. I I believe it is Ray Kroc from McDonald's that actually popularized the saying of, if you have time to lean, you have time to clean. I think that might have actually came from the military, but very, very much used by Ray Kroc. And that was to keep the locations of McDonald's clean. And I think a lot of the fast food joints, the chains and stuff like that, really harped on cleanliness of their places. And again, keep in mind, this is before all of the government regulations that started coming in. I think a lot of the government regulations that started coming in the fast food were the places that didn't really care. Well, that and just the fact the government wants to control our entire fucking lives. And so they want to get themselves involved in everything that we do. Again, this is why I'm starting to become really hatred. I have a burning red hot hatred for our current way we are governed, because the government's supposed to be answering to us, the people. We're not supposed to be bowing down. And all these laws that keep passing, it's like they're trying to think that they're our parents. Go fuck yourself. You're actually our employee that's supposed to be doing what we want. But anyway, that's not this show.
Sanders wove a tapestry of dirty words nearly every time he opened his mouth. He once remarked, "I used to cuss the prettiest you ever heard," explaining that it's hard for me not to call a no-good, lazy, incompetent, dishonest SOB by anything else but his rightful name. Tasty and honest. Sanders also did not bother to clean up the force and variety of his swearing and mixed company. "I did my cussin' before women or anybody else," he once said.
Except for the fact that he has been known to say some very racist items that definitely would get him canceled in modern world. Talk about based. Didn't change his language for anyone. He just talked the way he talked. No filter.
But somehow, nobody ever took any offense.
Because look at him. He's a cuddly old man. He's serving chicken to the hungry masses. He's so friendly. Come get a box of Colonel Sanders chicken. Nice guy. He may throw in a slur here and there, but he's just an old man. He doesn't know any better.
Sanders came by his rough edges honestly. Despite his incredible success and enduring status as a pop culture icon, Sanders didn't start turning a humble gas station cafe into a global fast food franchise until he was in his 60s, which is when most people retire, ironically, to spend the rest of their days eating KFC in front of the television. His early life was a struggle. Sanders was born in 1890. His father died when he was 6, which left him responsible for taking care of his younger brother and sister. He joined the workforce early to support his family, working as a railroad fireman, a streetcar conductor, a farmer, and an insurance salesman. Pretty much
wide range of jobs. That's the whole point too, that the belief that you get your career and you stay there all the way to retirement is something that's more of a modern thinking, which isn't true. For all of the history, a lot of people did a lot of job movements in their lives. They didn't necessarily stay at the same place their entire working career. That I think is something that more started during the 60s and through the 70s and kind of into the 80s. But then we're going back to the fact that now most people are job hopping more often, whether it be because they don't like the job they're doing, or they're not enjoying the place they work, or better opportunities, or they want to try something else. So there's a lot more job jumping that's going on. And I think that's also true of the past. I think it's just a couple decades of the past where you get a job, you work there for 35, 40 years and then retire. You don't see that or hear about that quite as much anymore. Granted, I mean, I work with some people that are already into their 35, 40 years of working for the same company, but that's becoming rare and rarer. I've worked for my company going on almost 10 years now. And I mean, before that, I worked for other companies. I've done other things. And so it's just to think you're going to find your place, that you're going to be there for the entire run of your working career, I think that's thoughts from the 50s, 60s, and 70s. It's just not that way today.
All the jobs you would expect a man who looks like Colonel Sanders to have, with the notable exception of folksy humorist or Mark Twain cosplayer. He also had to cook for his family at a young age, where he would experiment with different recipes because he was a kid in the single digits and didn't know what the hell he was doing. He was married to his childhood girlfriend Josephine by the age of 18. That might seem a little young to you now, but Sanders had already been taking care of a family and a household for more than a decade at that point. He'd essentially been an adult since he was 6, so he probably assumed he was ready for the big leap.
And that's the other thing too. I almost think it's by design, with the whole point of the younger generation hasn't grown up. Gen Z specifically still seem like they're children in adult bodies, in the sense that they never grew up and never were forced to actually grow up. So that's why their behaviors are the way they are. You see that all the time when they have their temper tantrums. The way they behave when they're told no, it's like the first time they've ever been told no. And they have just essentially like a temper tantrum that you would see out of a 5-year-old. That is definitely Gen Z in a nutshell. They never were forced to actually have to grow up, because you want to know what? Our modern lives are just so comfortable. And on top of that, when you have things like, well, you can be on your parents' insurance until you're 26, which is just, no, everything should be 18. You're off your parents' insurance at 18. You go and get a job, be a contributing member of society, but that's not what's happening. And then it's causing more, not necessarily, I'm not going to say high schoolers, because most people didn't get jobs. It's a small percentage that got jobs during high school, more so in the 90s, and even earlier than that you would get a summer job. You would do things during that, or work during your time in high school, depending on when you were allowed to work. I mean, I've been working since age 15. So it's a little bit different when it comes down to the modern generation, where they were forced to go to college, which is now causing a credit loan bubble, because now they've got the loans and they're refusing to pay it. And they keep getting the Democrats telling them that their loans are going to get forgiven by their party, so they don't pay on them properly. They're not paying them off, and now they're expecting everyone else to pay for their bad choices. Now, granted, don't get me wrong, the college loan system is completely predatory. It absolutely is 100% predatory, but it's just pushing everyone to go to college for useless degrees that are never going to make their money back. They are poor investments. I mean, if you go to an accountant, give them all the information, they would say that's a bad investment and not to do it. If you left off the aspect of college, just put it down financially looking at it. The only people that should really be going to college is for specialty. If you're going to be a doctor, a lawyer, that's about it. Maybe accountant at most. Most other jobs you don't need, and that's why I'm very big on pushing for trade schools. Go in, do 18 months, and you walk out of there with very minimal debt, if any, and you are already working in a field that already has higher pay, where a lot of these college students are coming out with already in negative because of their student loan debts, and they're not getting the fields because they got degrees that don't apply to the real world, and now they're baristas. And those are the ones that are bitching about how the taxpayers have to pay off their student loans. I paid my student loans off, okay? I had student loans. They got paid off. No one paid mine off. No government entity. No taxpayers paid off my loans. I paid mine off.
Year, Josephine gave birth to the couple's first daughter. Despite his grandfatherly image of the proprietor of a family-friendly chicken empire, Sanders had a not-so-good habit of beating the feathers out of people. As a young man, he loved to fight, and his quarrelsome nature got him fired from several jobs. He lost his railroad firefighting job after getting into a fracas with an engineer beneath a water tower. Another time, he was dismissed at a Justice of the Peace Court after attempting to beat his own client with a chair. And reportedly, Sanders once punched a man in a barber's chair so hard that the shaving lather flew right off the man's face. Josephine, understandably, grew annoyed with Sanders' chronic inability to hold a job longer than it took to smack someone in the head. So she left him and went to her parents' house, taking their daughter with her. Sanders was a colorful southern kicker used to getting his own way, so he wasn't about to take that lying down. He deep-fried a plan to kidnap his own daughter away from his estranged wife, although the exact details of the incident are a bit sketchy. In his autobiography, Sanders mentioned he was planning to kidnap multiple children, despite the fact that the couple only had one child at the time. Was he confused about how many kids were available to kidnap, or was he remembering a different kidnapping? How many kidnappings did you plan, Colonel Sanders?
No, just future workers for the Colonel Sanders KFC. That's what was going on there.
Luckily, Sanders' criminal plots weren't as meticulous as his business acumen. His entire kidnapping plan was to lurk in the bushes outside of Josephine's parents' house and wait for his daughter to come within snatching distance and sop him up like a biscuit does gravy. It's unclear whether his aging knees started aching from hiding in the bushes or if he just got sick of waiting. But he eventually gave up his plan and simply walked inside the house, first to talk to Josephine's father and then to Josephine herself. The couple eventually reconciled and brought the family back together. After losing more jobs than a party planner, Colonel Sanders finally settled down as the owner and manager of a gas station in Kentucky in 1930, when he was 40 years old. He couldn't know it at the time, but this was the first step towards what would become a wildly successful career, and officially the longest single job he would ever hold. In order to satisfy hungry gas station customers, Sanders began serving meals of chicken and other delicious meats. When the chicken became a hit, he added a full cafe to the station and hired a woman named Claudia Price to run it. Claudia just so happened to also be the Colonel's mistress.
Of course he had a mistress. With everything we've already heard about Colonel Sanders, yeah, that does not shock me in any kind of way, but, yeah, it is what it is. And there was supposedly also kind of rumors around Ray Kroc as well with that stuff. I mean, his wife that he had when he passed was formerly the wife of one of the franchise owners. He became smitten with her. It's brought up in the Founder movie, but they play it a little bit differently for more drama, and seems like he asked for his wife for a divorce and immediately went and pursued the woman that he ended up married to by time he was passing. But there was a second wife that was in between those two that the story just doesn't cover, because it ends essentially with him buying out the McDonald's brothers to him later in life talking at a convention. So, I mean, they did skip a lot of the history.
In fact, he made no attempt to hide from his wife, Josephine, who finally divorced him and left him for good in 1947. Apparently, there is a limit to how many fistfights, affairs, and attempted kidnappings a person is willing to tolerate. After
Wait. In all fairness, it was attempted. Let's split hairs here. Come on. It was attempted, and he didn't do it that we're aware of.
Splitting from his first wife, Sanders married Price in 1949 and stayed with her until his death. Sanders' pit stop was located on a particularly rough stretch of the Dixie Highway in Corbin, Kentucky, called Hell's Half Acre. This being the Deep South during Prohibition, it was a place where booze and shotguns lived. Come to think of it, booze and guns have pretty much always been kindred spirits. In the Colonel's own words, bootleggings, fights, and shootings was as regular as a rooster's crowing in the morning. Crime and violence were commonplace, but fuel was always in demand, and Sanders' motor stop was well positioned to earn him a comfortable living. Also, he was not exactly a stranger to thuggery. Sanders once got into a shootout with a rival gas station owner named Matt Stewart. The conflict began when Stewart started painting over Sanders' highway signs. And if there is one thing you absolutely do not do, it is to with the Colonel's money. With some executives from Shell Oil in tow, Sanders went to confront Stewart. The confrontation quickly became a gunfight. One of the Shell executives was killed, but Sanders wounded Stewart badly enough that the man gave up and was arrested for murder. While the incident was tragic and probably not the way Sanders had intended things to go down, taking Stewart out of the picture gave him a monopoly on gasoline sales in the area. On another occasion, Sanders was awakened early in the morning by the sound of gunfire outside his business. Two rival bootleggers were engaged in a shootout entirely too close to the Colonel's gas station.
Okay, so this is why things can't be banned, like alcohol, the war on drugs and stuff like that, lower them, all this stuff, is because you end up causing black markets. You cause the rise. The reason I think we have such a problem when it comes to the cartels, besides the fact that Mexico is being ran by them, is because they have gone so hard on the war on drugs, which has been a complete failure, is that you make it something illegal. It just never has the effect or the wanted desire, because even the senators and representatives that passed prohibition, many of them were caught later getting drunk, violating the Constitution, because at that point it was a constitutional amendment. That's why in the end they ended up repealing it, because it just made no sense. It finally came to their wits about them and actually ended it. And so it was the temperance movement that started it, and it was also the kind of the same group that were fighting for universal suffrage. And again, I've said this before, I am not a fan of universal suffrage. I just not. I'm not going to say repeal the 19th, but I think maybe one household, one vote. Really. I'm also kind of a firm believer that you should have skin in the game to be able to vote. If you are receiving, if you're receiving more from the government than you pay into it, then I really don't think that you should be allowed to vote. That I think it should be back to landowners, those who have a skin in the game. Now, granted, a lot of people point out that corporations have bought up a lot of land, BlackRock and stuff like that. And yeah, well, they don't get a vote, but I think there needs to be a curtailing of major companies and corporations buying land. I don't think they should be allowed to. I can understand it from the aspect of buying land or something for commercial use and stuff like that. A lot of money goes into that and stuff like that. But when it comes to housing, no, it should not be in the hands of like BlackRock or Vanguard.
Clad in nothing but his underwear and clutching his own standard-issue Kentucky scattergun, he kicked open his door and shouted, "Line up, both of you sons of bitches, and throw down your guns." We don't know if Sanders forgot to put his clothes on, but doing that in your skivvies, that's a power move anybody will respect. The two men complied, and a still pantsless Sanders helped the sheriff escort them to jail. Even after finally settling into his role as a gas station manager, Sanders still filled his off hours with odd jobs and volunteer work. Either he was captured by the wanderlust spirit, or he was trying to make sure his biographers had as much material as possible. And we appreciate that, Colonel. One of his many side hustles was volunteering as the local midwife in Corbin, Kentucky. He traveled across the county delivering babies like an armed stork, ultimately helping to bring 8 new lives into the world. It was this work, along with his famous fried chicken, that earned him the title of Kentucky Colonel, the highest civilian honor the state can bestow. The honor was given to him by Kentucky Governor Ruby LaFoon, who sounds like a character in a Kentucky Fried Chicken universe, or KFCU if we're being Marvel about it.
A good citizen, even though he definitely has some very shady background in his past. But I mean, yeah, that's why he was given the rank of colonel. Hence the reason why it's Colonel Sanders. It's always good to see business leaders that are actually doing volunteer work and not doing it for anything else than to actually help the community in which they live. How many of these individuals are doing that nowadays? None. Sure, they may open their pocketbooks and just give out some cash, but that's not the same thing that actually volunteering the thing that is actually the most precious, and that is a person's actual time. Money, I think, is when it comes to donations, sure, money's needed for for charities to be able to function. But those charities, the most valuable thing that they can get is a person willing to give their time to it. Money is cheap, if you will, but what is precious is the time of volunteers. I don't care if they're right wing, left wing, and don't get me wrong, the left wing volunteers are nuts, but just going to a local food bank to help hand out food to people that are in need of it is more precious because again, we have a limited amount of time on this planet. To give up that time to do charity work is something that many people in their lives never do. I can honestly say I've only volunteered for a very short period of time of my life. I probably should do more of it, and I probably would have a better outlook on society and it may have better effects on my health, if you will. But those that just are giving the money and just giving the money thing and then patting themselves on the back, thinking they did something good, they really didn't. I don't think, anyway.
Sanders made it his personal mission to be one of the most eclectic and unique figures in modern American history. It's like he was collecting future bar trivia questions about himself. He managed to be tangentially involved in the most significant research projects ever conducted. Fuel rationing during World War II forced Sanders to pick up a few more side gigs, which he was already more than accustomed to doing. One of those supplemental jobs involved him serving as the assistant manager of a few cafeterias located within a research facility in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, where materials were being developed for Project Manhattan. Yeah, Colonel Sanders' finger-licking fingerprints on the project that created nuclear weapons.
So that's who we ultimately have to blame for nuclear proliferation that occurred in the United States was Colonel Sanders for feeding the workers. Is that what you're trying to say? It's Colonel Sanders' fault? No. That is interesting that just because of the location being so close to his food stand, him ending up working at the cafeteria for where they were working on the Manhattan Project is actually kind of interesting.
Research site where he managed a few eateries.
I'm fairly certain that wasn't brought up in the movie.
Was tasked with producing uranium-235, a vital component in Little Boy, the bomb that was ultimately dropped on the city of Hiroshima in the first atomic attack in history. Bit of a dubious distinction, but even doomsday architects have to eat.
Colonel Sanders, did your chicken make you a wealthy man?
See, I started franchising when I was 66 years old. Now, that's an advantage again. Don't quit because you're 65, because you can do something quite worthwhile after that.
The popular version of the story of the founding of Kentucky.
See, that again, too, is kind of a modern thought, retirement. For those that know let's say, like the Bible, retirement is nowhere, to my knowledge anywhere. Retirement's not mentioned anywhere. You work your entire life. And I think that's part of the problem too, is everyone just thinks once you hit 65, you retire and you're done. You don't work anymore. I intend to work my entire life. I might, as I get older, take more extended periods of time off from work and do some personal things, and maybe go more as I get older to more odd jobs and stuff like that. That's a way I intend, or hopefully get to the point where maybe I can do the odd jobs and stuff of things that I build or things that I create that then I can sell for an income and just do it that way. But to continue to working to have a purpose. And I think that's part of the problem that we have, is that people, once they get 65, retire. Then once they start getting in their 70s, they're starting to look like as dead weight because they don't contribute in anything. They're just taking Social Security. They're a bane on society because we're paying for this stuff. And again, I think this is the downfall too of the Social Security program, where we give money. Again, retirement is truly a more modern invention.
Fried chicken involves Colonel Sanders contemplating suicide after retiring at 65. and instead deciding to take a chance on building a fast food empire. And although that charming tale of a senior citizen weighing the pros and cons of offing himself is the story KFC itself likes to promote, it's probably a myth. There's no evidence Sanders ever considered ending his own life, or that he ever really retired. The man collected jobs like signatures for a student council election. He didn't even quit after becoming a millionaire. More on that in a bit. However, the true story of KFC's founding is just as interesting. Sanders did not stop working when he hit his 60s, but he was forced to change careers yet again after the construction of the interstate highway system effectively killed business at his rural highway gas station. Between the loss of his primary source of income and the meager sum of his Social Security checks, the Colonel was strapped for cash. Sanders reached out to Pete Harmon, a restaurateur he'd once met at a convention, and pitched him a restaurant franchise based on Sanders' personal fried chicken recipe that had proven so popular at his cafe. To sell Harmon on the idea, he took his potential investor with him to the grocery store to buy ingredients, and then fried up some chicken with 11 herbs and spices right in Harmon's kitchen. The meal was evidently enough to convince Harmon, who briefly tried to convince Sanders to sell him the recipe before finally agreeing to franchise the first Kentucky Fried Chicken restaurant in Salt Lake City in 1952. Surprisingly, Sanders had nothing to do with the name. Kentucky Fried Chicken was reportedly coined by a painter named Don Anderson, whom Harmon had hired to paint a sign for the restaurant. Solid pick, Don. With Pete Harmon already on the hook, Sanders began to travel around the country looking for more franchisees. He loaded his car full of chicken, flour, pressure cookers, oil, and 11 different herbs and spices, offering to cook batches of chicken in exchange for a nickel for each order sold. He slept on the road to save money and time, and we get the feeling that Sanders was a guy who was comfortable sleeping in his car. Sanders more or less stayed on the road for the next 12 years, building his empire by recruiting more and more franchisees. By 1964, KFC had over 600 franchises across the country. That same year, he sold his interest in KFC to some investors for $2 million when he was 73. According to Sanders, the amount was paid in cash, in 3 glass-covered carts, totaling the $2 million. They had 31 FBI and Treasury Department guards watching over that pile. Even though he no longer had any ownership stake in the business, Sanders continued to make public appearances acting as the face and mascot of KFC, visiting KFC restaurants around the world as a spokesman. When KFC was acquired by Hublin Inc. in 1971, the fast food chain had over 3,500 franchises and company-owned locations across the globe.
Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Hublin paid $285 million for the empire Sanders built.
I see in the paper yesterday the same company that I sold for $2 million sold for $240 million yesterday.
You feel you got left out?
Well, I'm left out. That's right. I don't want nobody writing me for any money because I didn't get any of that.
Right, and he wouldn't get any money because he didn't have any further interest in it because he had already sold it. I mean, that's definitely something that's going to be in a business contract. Just because you're the founder of it, you sold it off. You no longer have any control. You don't have anything to do with the company. Sure, you're a spokesman, but I'm pretty sure you were probably paid as a spokesman. But yeah, if it gets sold, it's like anything else. If it changes hand and gets sold again, the original founders never see any don't see any kind of money for what they had sold originally.
Sanders began to sour on KFC after the Hublin acquisition, and he engaged the company in several legal disputes. He tried to sue them for misusing his image. Hublin countersued for libel, but both cases ultimately fizzled. Sanders also attempted to open a brand new fried chicken franchise using his image, which he technically no longer owned as far as the food service industry was concerned, but he eventually backed down. I guess after he realized he couldn't bait Hublin executives into a gunfight. But that didn't stop him from publicly denouncing KFC. He complained that the changes the company had made to his gravy recipe reduced it to a damn slop. Sanders was witnessed walking into a KFC franchise as late as 1979, a year before his death, to throw food on the ground and berate the manager for what he perceived to be subpar quality. Maybe not surprising for a guy who plotted to abduct his own child. Colonel Sanders died on December 16, 1980 in Louisville, Kentucky at the age of 90. He saw the end of the 19th century as the dirt-poor son of a single mother, working to support his siblings, and nearly saw the end of the 20th century as a millionaire restaurateur and one of the most famous faces on the planet. Not a bad run, Colonel. Meanwhile, Hublin was acquired by R.J. Reynolds Industries, now RJR Nabisco, in 1982. 4 years later, PepsiCo bought KFC from RJR Nabisco in 1986 for a whopping $840 million. That is a lot of chicken, and even more bolo ties. So what do you think?
Yeah, that's the one thing about the KFC with all the mergers and everything else. So now KFC itself is merged with AMW Root Beer, the A&W restaurants, Taco Bell, KFC, I believe, are the three main fast food restaurants. I believe even Pizza Hut now is actually under the same umbrella as well, because the way you can tell is because the combined stores that you can find, you can go to a place and it'd be like KFC and an A&W location, or a KFC and a Taco Bell, or a Taco Bell and a Pizza Hut. The mixing of the stores is because I believe it's all the same parent company. And that's what happens when these major companies start buying out the other ones. And I can't say that it's a completely bad thing, but I think when you push stores like that, Pizza Hut and a Taco Bell together, or a KFC and a burger place, I think the quality of the original food, I think, goes down when you have that type of a kitchen instead of it being focused on its primary. Of course, fast food is fast food, and the quality is a lot left to desire compared to the original quality of the food when these restaurants first opened. The quality nowadays in fast food is as ass compared to what it was back in the 80s. Hell, even the early 90s. I think the fast food quality was so much better. Probably tasted better. A lot less chemicals in the food. I mean, again, it's the images that we see all the time on X where they show a picture of like the 50s or the 60s of at the beach. No fat people. And yet you look at today and we have an obesity problem. And again, I don't think the obesity problem is because our bodies have changed in any kind of way. I think it's because of all the fucking chemicals. I don't think it's because of fast food. I think it, again, goes back to chemicals. And on top of that we're highly medicated in this country specifically, but other Western world countries are in the same place where they're just so over-medicated. You're putting all these different chemicals in your body, and I think that's what's affecting and causing the obesity problem that we're actually facing. That and the excuse that fresh food is just too expensive. There are places, sure, it is harder to get fresh food. I will not dispute that fact. If you're living in the middle of a city, yes, it is harder to get fresher food, sure, compared to people that are living out in the suburbs or living out near farms. I mean, I luckily live in a city that not very far away is a place that has farms, that in the summer months you can, when it's harvest season, you can go pick your own fruit, vegetables and stuff like that, and then pay for it. And there you go. You got fresh food. But again, in the city that I live in, anyone could go and do that. But of course, it involves actually having to work to do it, having to actually go and do it themselves. And I think that's a part that actually, besides the over-medication, I think over-medication, the chemicals that are being put in our foods, the highly processed, the corn syrups and everything else that's in our food that I think is unhealthy for us. And granted, it sounds like I'm being hypocritical because I still eat some of this stuff. I realize it, and I'm trying to reduce how much of that stuff I'm bringing into my life, especially now because, as I stated at the beginning of the video, I'm the heaviest I've ever been, and I am not happy about it. So I'm making changes to my diet in a way to hopefully start to slim down, plus be more physically active. But I think that's also what goes into the fact of our obesity problem is that people in the Western world have had too much of comfortable lives that are served up. You have Amazon and everything else that is given everyone essentially instant gratification. So you don't have to go out to work for anything, it seems like. And so people are too lazy to go out and do those activities for themselves. People are too accustomed and too willing just to have everything come to them instead of them having to go out and get it. And that's why I think downfall of technology. Technology is great when it's used properly, but I think it is also to the detriment of society, our technological advances, because it has opened the door to instant gratification. And I think that's increasing to our laziness and the fact that everything is just so easy to get. There's no effort. There's no having to really work for it, making it special. And on top of that, us being healthier in those things. But that is it for this show. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in. If you haven't yet, hit the like or subscribe button or follow button, depending on where you're watching from. Please do. My growth may be slow, but it is steady. I get a couple new followers every week, and it's great. I see that number kind of tick up because, like I said, this is a hobby. I'm doing this for my own enjoyment because you want to know what? Why not? I enjoy this. It's fun to do. And the doing a solo show is helping me get over the fact that I'm not good at public speaking. So this actually is helping more get out of my shell. And it's different than a panel show. So it's quite enjoyable. But thank you, everyone, for tuning in. I am the host of All the Good Titles Were Taken. Coming up on Saturday at 7 p.m. PST on this channel's insert title here. Then on Tuesday at 6 p.m. PST back on this channel is Nerds Covering the News with my co-host, Tiny But Fierce. And then we'll be back here at 6 p.m. PST on Thursday for the next episode of All the Good Titles Were Taken. New project that we are working on, myself, Tiny, and Jerry. There we go. Yeah, I remember that. We're working on a new concept for a show. Probably will be Rumble exclusive. And then we'll cut it up and then we will put it out on YouTube. But we are going to start right from the beginning with the very first episode of Star Trek. And that was the very first pilot, The Cage. We're going to start there. I think we're going to do it on YouTube. We're going to do it on Rumble exclusive. Watch the entire show. Facts about the show. Facts about the episode we're watching, our enjoyment of watching it, and occasionally if someone wants to come on as a guest that maybe has seen it and like their favorite episode or has never seen the show before and they're curious and want to watch along with us, they'll be welcome and we will open it up. Though we're going to leave it to a 4-person panel, so only one guest because I don't want it too unruly and gets too out of control that it takes 3 hours just to watch an episode of Star Trek. Fun it may be, but don't want it to extend too long. But again, thank you for everyone tuning in. We will see you next time on the next episode of All the Good Titles Were Taken. We will see you next time. Have a great night. Have a great rest of the week, and we will see you this weekend.